Alright, time to review the other supernatural product that was occurring while the original show was airing, Superman the Anime Series. Heard about this by dumb chance back in like 2018 and was able to get this Blu-ray while it was still in print. It isn't anymore, and I think that the DVD might not be, you'd have to check. But I am glad that I saw this, though just a heads up, if you haven't watched this, it doesn't exist in the same continuity as the original show because there are all differences in the episodes that they adapt from the original show, such as there's no Ellen and Joe in the climax of the second season, and in fact, they enlist the aid of the psychic person that helped them clear the poltergeist in the episode Home to assist them for the end of the season 2 episodes here instead, which is as far as the anime goes, even though there's more original episodes than adopted episodes. And there's a few other things like that. But it is a nice show. I am really glad that it exists because you do get to experience the show in a different way because owing to the fact that it's of course animated, this means that they can get away with more complex events than they would on the TV show because apparently in an episode there's a little bit where two characters are briefly fighting underwater. Well, of course, in the original show it'd be way too tough to do that. And also, owing to the art style, it does allow the building up of horror to be done differently, which I really like, but at the same time, owing to the fact that all these episodes are half an hour in length rather than being an hour-long show, which is the case of the main TV show, unfortunately that reduction in length, I think, actually hurts the potential of what these visuals can do, because that's the main strength of the main show, like with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, even though the names of both of these shows give you the idea that the main bits that the heroes are going to be doing are putting down these supernatural, unworldly beings. The real strengths of the show is the dialogue, where it shows that these are still just ordinary people who happen to be dealing with not-so-ordinary things. That's where the real strength comes in, and helps make up for the not-that-great special effects budget stuff. But, yeah, you know where I'm going for. The length in episodes does hurt that, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because those visuals are, I think, pretty good, because I'm not opposed to the style of anime in a lot of situations, because there are some people that I've encountered that just try to say, yeah, I don't watch anime or blah blah blah, but I'm like, every animated show has its own type of animated style. Like, if you look at all the different Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV shows, every single one of them is animated in a different way. Yeah. One of them is done in the more light cartoon way, another one is done in a much darker style, another one is done in a more 3D style, and then you have Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pfft, I really hate when they draw characters in just like crazy, deformed, unrealistic ways like that show, but yeah. You know, every show has its own animated style. I don't really get how you can call all of anime one specific anime. But, yeah, that doesn't bother me. And owing to the fact that they got Jared to reprise his role as Sam, and then Jensen does voice Dean in a couple of episodes, although he's made it clear without saying the exact words, had he been available to do the whole show, he would have. It helps get fans from the original one to come to this, because clearly that's based on the season 1 cover, you know. But one thing that I also really liked about this show that I didn't know was that apparently for the Japanese dub, they used the same two guys that were voicing Sam and Dean already for the Japanese broadcast. So I was just like, whoa! So even though I never really looked into the Japanese dub, but I did experience a little bit of it when I was watching the special features, and I actually wouldn't be too surprised if when Jared and what's that guy who did voice Dean in here, Andrew, something like that, who did a really good job of getting Dean's mannerisms in here, because he was able to play off Jared in pretty much the same way that Jensen did. Yes, his voice is different when you first start hearing it, but then you get used to it after a while. Like, I had to remind myself that that wasn't Jensen, that was a different guy. But all that really helps bring people over and make it a better experience, which is something that I really do appreciate. And there are more complex differences that I was able to pick out, because going back to the first season, I didn't remember that the first time Sam and Dean encountered Bobby, that he mentioned that the last time that he had talked to John, their father, had been years prior, and it didn't go over so well, though you could tell by the end of the conversation he had gotten over it enough that he had no problem helping Sam and Dean out at all. And he even says, yeah, tell your old man, blah, blah. He got over it. But this show, the first time that they encounter him, he acts as if he was always in their lives, which was a nice change. And then John, the characterization of him, is vastly different as well, because on the main show, you get the idea that he is both a father and a hunter. He was able to import both sides of him onto both Sam and Dean. And you gotta remember, Sam, the hunter aspect of the family, is all he knew, because he was too young to remember what his mother looked like. Dean, he was old enough to remember. But you could tell that both elements were present there, even when he saw them both in person for the first time towards the end of the first season. And then when he's making the deal with Yellow Eyes at the beginning of the second season to kill himself, yes, it's him making a deal with the devil, and he wouldn't do that unless he was desperate, but you can tell, that he thought about it. But still, nonetheless, neither of those two sides was truly eclipsing the other. Oh yes, you would have moments where one was more than the other. It's not a perfect 50-50, but he never truly lost it. At most, it was 2/3 and then 1/3, that kind of a thing. This, on the other hand, you can tell that he was a lot more of the hunter rather than the father, because those flashbacks that Dean has, it's all about the hunter business and stuff like that. And then the characterization of Yellow Eyes. It's both good and bad, and I'm sure that something that I say in my description here is going to be contradictory. Okay, so heads up about that. This Yellow Eyes, I felt, was a lot more serious, which is something that I really liked, because there were various moments where the actor that was playing him, which interestingly, according to the Season 2 featurettes, wasn't originally the plan. They were going to introduce a different actor to be playing the role in the second season, but because people liked the first guy so much, they decided to bring him back. But this Yellow Eyes, a lot more serious, and you get the idea that he has been planning this for a really long time now, very calculated, and is just throwing the motions in there, boom, boom, boom. Like, even when the curveballs happen where John offers to give his life up for Dean, and then Dean offers to give up his soul in exchange to help Sam, he's just rolling with the punches. He's like, I get to get some more personal satisfaction. This is good. So I like that different characterization, but the problem is, owing to the fact that they don't talk about Yellow Eyes as much, along with the lengths of the episodes, I can't help but feel like that he feels just a little less threatening. He's just more of a demon rather than the demon, that kind of a thing. So it's nice that he's more serious, but at the same time it feels like we get to know him less. So it's odd because you fix one problem, then you get another problem. Yeah. And then, talking about some of the more original aspects of the show, well, them having to make changes to various storylines, it makes sense. The episode is only half the time to tell the same story, so you gotta move things along faster, like the Shapeshifter episode, getting rid of the plot where Sam actually knows the guy who was affected by it, and then instead you make a detective on the case be involved with the plot. Odd, but it was fine. They could have easily done that same storyline for the original version of the show, you know. It's something that the TV series Angel did, where a cop character is introduced in the first episode and then becomes a recurring character for a bit. That's similar. And then, what they did with Madison in the episodes involving the werewolf bits. Well, I get that you had to move it along quicker, and arguably the scenes with Sam and Madison are a lot more personal, but at the same time, some of the truly horrifying aspects of, oh no, it didn't work, you just have less time for that to hit you. Partially because you probably have already seen that episode happen, but yeah, you've got that issue. The different bits that they did with the character Jake, well, I think it actually does do a little bit better of building him up as understanding why he decides to agree to help Yellow Eyes, whereas in the original show, it's just that he happens to be the one that Yellow Eyes just really picked, you know? Because really, he could have picked any of them, in my mind, if they had done it right. But this gives some more justification to it, which is nice. Yeah, it's kind of sudden, but it's supposed to be a dark thing. It's supposed to get bad real fast. So yeah, I get that. And then, those vampire characters, the father and son duo, who actually appear in one of the episodes that was based off an episode of the original show as a way of moving along that adaptation. It's a nice way to try and throw a surprise at you, because if you watch the show after you watch the corresponding episode that is adopted from the original show, there will be a few moments where you're like, huh, this feels like something that they're trying to really enroot in here. What's up with that? Well, that's because if you watch all the episodes in order, which is what I did after watching the first 2 seasons, because I'm filming this after I finished watching the first 2 seasons, but I don't know when I'm going to upload it for reasons that I'll get to in a bit. If you watch all the episodes back to back, you can tell that there is actually continuity and theme to what they were going for in the episodes, where originally it's just demon after demon, blah blah blah, but then in the later episodes, right before the climax of what was Season 2, you have flashback episodes. Things that are meant to explain a little bit more of Sam and Dean's backstory, like that scene that takes place where Sam is in Stanford. That was an interesting episode. I really appreciate what they did in that one. That was great. But yeah, this is something that is meant to be seen on its own, without question. But when you should watch it, that's kind of tough, because the only episodes that it adopts from the original show are from the first 2 seasons, even though there's a couple of season 3 concepts that are mentioned in throwaway lines, and then also you have a written picture of Jensen playing his leg, which is something that occurs in season 3. Hey, I haven't given you any context for that scene. So you see a little bit of that issue from the 3rd season, but when they made the show, it happened between seasons 5 and 6, so if you watch the special features, there are multiple references to events that occur in season 4 and 5, much more for season 5, and then there's a tease for season 6 on there. So if you just watch the episodes, which is I think how most people are going to be watching them, because again, this Blu-ray is out of print and I think the DVD is out of print too. You watch it between seasons 2 and 3, but they actually made it between seasons 5 and 6. Or you just might even decide to just watch it after the entire original show is done. But since I know that they're definitely going to characterize Sam and Dean differently as the show goes along, and the fact that they didn't make any more of those episodes, why? Who knows? There was the potential for them to do that. I guess they just chose not to, or there wasn't enough of an interest to justify them continuing. So, yeah. So I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this, but obviously you'll know what I decided to do. And, yeah. So am I glad that I saw that? Absolutely. It totally deserves its place in the supernatural fandom. You just have to recognize that it's a different show, which is what you would think at the beginning, but when you learn that Jared and then Jensen and the original Japanese guys come to voice here as well, it feels more included. I don't know why that was so hard to pull from my butt. See ya.